Welcome to the channel, guys and gals. It's Jedi's Point of View. Today we're going to be talking about how potentially in the near future Star Wars is going to end up retconning the sequels. So let's get just right into this theory. So I'm just going to start off with this piece of lore from the Lord and Savior, Dave Filoni, right here himself, wearing the Ahsoka Live shirt on the Star Wars Celebration stage. So he comes out and he looks like an absolute badass wearing that shirt. And I love it. It's kind of controversial. So that's just my starting point of this argument. And other than that, let's jump right in. So in the background here, I just have some Clone Wars that is obviously just being shown. And there's no sound or anything. Hopefully that I don't get taken off or copyright striked with this. But I'm going to just talk over it. So let's start off with that Ahsoka is alive in this timeline. So in my theory, the sequels take place in a timeline where she's not alive, where she has died on Malachor while she was fighting Vader in Star Wars Rebels. So that's basically my main theory. So we'll start off. So in Star Wars Rebels is where the theory starts. We're introduced to a young boy named Ezra Bridger, and the series starts off with him being all alone, just surviving on the planet of Lothal that's ruled by the Imperials, right? So Ezra then meets the Ghost Squadron, which has Kanan Jarrus, Garazeb Aurelius, Sabine Wren, and Hera Syndulla, and also Chopper. Can't forget about Chopper, the little droid. And we're going to go right into it, and they're all amazing characters. You're super engaged in this TV show. Honestly, Star Wars Rebels is just on par with the amount of quality that this show has to offer, which is the Clone Wars. It is epic animations, and it's just the storytelling is amazing. Look at this epicness right here. You're watching the grenades open up. Awesome stuff happening in the shows. You know, the animations of Star Wars is just amazing, and that's why I wanted to just make this start off and show you guys what Star Wars animation is if you've never really seen it. It's actually awesome. So I'll just cut that right here, and we're gonna jump right into the next part of my theory. So we'll jump right in. This is a couple episodes into Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels, and we figure out that Kanan Jarrus is a Jedi. In this episode, he reveals himself to the Empire, and so he instantly feels a connection with Ezra through the Force. You get to witness how their reactions are when they kind of see each other for the first time. They can feel each other through the Force. And as the show goes on, the relationship between Ezra and Kanan gets a lot deeper and stronger as Master and Apprentice would, you know, just like Obi-Wan and Anakin and like Qui-Gon and Count Dooku. And there's always those attachments, even though the Jedi try to claim that they are against attachments. But this is one of the most epic moments in the season. He's just dodging the blaster bolts like it's nothing. Hooks his lightsaber up, looking like a freaking hero. Look at this. So this is where the season kind of starts showing us the real big picture. And as you can tell, everybody's kind of mind blown because there are no Jedi left. Vader and our Order 66 and his Inquisitors have taken care of that. He just shows his epic display of blaster reflection and, you know, buys him some time to get out of there. So that's one of the best opening scenes to any sort of story, I guess you could say. And you jump through, and so Kanan survived Order 66 by his master's sacrifice. She bought him enough time to run away, and he obviously is hidden and changed his name, and he doesn't identify as Kanan Jarrus anymore, but that's who he is. He comes out and becomes who he really is. And during the 4th season of Star Wars Rebels, we get to see some crazy lore expansion take place. So the Imperials are on Lothal, and they're looking for something related to the father, the son, and the daughter, which is the Mortis arc. So I'll just pull that up here as well. The Mortis arc, Clone Wars, bang, bang. And I just want to look at the quick little art picture. So Stonewall art. Let's just pull this up real quick because I think you guys need to see this as well, just to see what I'm talking about. So this is one of the scenes in Rebels. So that's the father, the daughter, and the son. And the father's supposed to bring balance in the Force type deal. He's like basically the chosen one. He's Anakin. And you have the son who is the dark side and the daughter who is the light. So these three play a huge role in the Star Wars universe, something that we really haven't touched on other than in the arc of Mortis in the Clone Wars. And we end up getting to the 4th season of Rebels, so by this time lots of spoiler alerts have happened where Kanan has sacrificed himself to show Ezra that there's more than just your feelings and what you want, and that you have to just do what is right and you will become one, and basically your life has a purpose, right? Everyone is here for a reason. Everyone is here to spread whatever they are here for, and everyone has their own course to go on. And Kanan passes that message along to Ezra very well in this episode, in these couple of episodes, sorry. And we're just going to get right into talking about what this leads into, which is called the World Between Worlds. So if you see some of the pictures here, Ezra ends up jumping through. So there's the father, son, and daughter again. So one of these doors open up, and Ezra sees that there's all these Lothwolves that are a local planetary beast on Lothal, and they have some sort of connection to the Force, because every living thing has connection to the Force. Just like in our real life that we live in now, I believe that there is some sort of force that holds everything together. So you're looking at this universe inside the universe, and you can see all these bridges of time and different possible outcomes, potentially, because you're watching. So right there, Ahsoka is with Ezra, and in this battle between Ahsoka and Vader, we think Ahsoka dies, Vader gets out alive, and that's how it ends. And then 4 years later in the timeline, Ezra ends up in the World Between Worlds, where he's standing right there and then, and he decides to reach through the portal and save Ahsoka. So Ahsoka and him are in the World Between Worlds, and at the same time, Palpatine's in there as well, and he's looking for them. And so Palpatine's has created this dark side ritual that he's in, and he reaches out to them, trying to take them out, kill them, or take them back through the portal, just like what Ezra just did to Ahsoka and save her. But Palpatine's obviously the big bad guy, so he's trying to stop them and somehow control the World Between Worlds. And this place in the Star Wars galaxy seems to be where fate is decided, where the Force decides what happens in reality. And you can see them walking through. There's all these cool etchings, and you're looking, and it looks like there's other doors that could potentially lead down other pathways. And we don't see what's in every single door, but we see what's in that door that Palpatine views through, and we also see the one that is in Malachor, where we get to see where Mariah is, the daughter. So that is the daughter. She passed away in the Clone Wars arc, and her essence went into Ahsoka through Anakin, who is the chosen one, right? So he's supposed to bring balance to the Force, so Ahsoka somehow will help bring balance to the Force again. So let's get on to the sequel trilogy now, and how I think that this is going to potentially change everything that we know of in episode 7, 8, and 9. So we'll see you then. So I pulled up, this is another spoiler alert. If you haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker, you all should have by now if you're watching this video and you're a Star Wars fan. So we're going to start playing. I have my headphones on too so I can hear. These are the final steps, Rey. Rise.
Take them.
Rey. Bring back the balance, Rey, as I did.
In the night, find the light, Rey.
Every Jedi who ever lived lives in you.
Force surrounds you, Rey.
Let it guide you.
There's Ahsoka and Anakin. So we'll keep this going.
Force flowing through you, Rey.
Let it lift you.
Rise, Rey.
We stand behind you, Rey. In the heart of a Jedi lies her strength.
Rey, the Force will be with you.
Luke.
Always.
And I mean, you can't lie, that scene is pretty awesome, and I think they did a really good job at portraying how that scene would have happened, except for in this timeline you heard Ahsoka's voice and you hear Luke's voice. So they're obviously passed away and have become one with the Force and are reaching out to Rey to help her rise as the Skywalker to defeat Palpatine. And so that is something that caused a lot of controversy in the Star Wars fan base. A lot of people didn't like the way they handled Rey's story, and we know that it wasn't even fully outlined. We know that they didn't have a carbon cut out for their story. They passed the baton type deal. In episode 7, JJ wrote it, and then he was like, here you go, Orion. And then Orion wrote 8, and then pass it back to JJ, and he had to just make do with what he had type deal. When meanwhile, when you make a trilogy of this gratitude, you need to have a plan. You need to put something in plan and in place to make sure that it is a story, that you are telling a story. So I'm gonna tell the story right now of how I think that the World Between Worlds and Ahsoka being alive, because of Ezra taking her out of the World Between Worlds instead of her dying to Vader there, changes everything. Alright. So, Ahsoka is alive in this timeline. In the Mandalorian's timeline, Ahsoka is here. She's alive. Like Dave Filoni said, Ahsoka lives. Right? And so, Grogu and Din Djarin head to Corvus to find Ahsoka. Bo-Katan sent them there. Nothing would have happened like this if Ahsoka had died on Malachor against Vader, and if Ezra didn't save her. So, we end up with Mando and Ahsoka working together throughout that episode, and then she sends them to Tython. And from Tython, that is where Grogu reaches out in the Force from the Seeing Stone and sees Luke, right? So he reaches out to Luke, and Luke comes looking for Grogu, saves Grogu and the whole group in the end anyways. And like Moff Gideon said, everyone on that ship would have been dead if it wasn't for Luke coming to save them. Those Dark Troopers would have killed everyone on the bridge and changed the entire future of the galaxy, which I believe that future where the Emperor gets hold of Grogu again and gets to take as much blood as he wants from the child and just do as much scientific experiments as he wants. That's how he created Snoke. Snoke is literally just a clone. You see that in episode 9. They've been making buttloads of Snoke, just trying to recreate him over and over and over. And Palpatine used Snoke to reach into Ben Solo's mind and to corrupt him just like how he did with Anakin, and ended up putting enough fear in his mind and into Luke's mind that things were going to go wrong, that Luke acted out of his fear and tried to kill Ben Solo before anything bad even happened, which is not something Luke would do in the original trilogy Luke, and I know that characters change and whatever, but Luke is still, as we see in the Mandalorian timeline now, he is a true Jedi. He comes, he doesn't have really any emotion, and he just acts on what needs to be done, and that's how Luke should always be, right? He is the utmost good guy, and he still has his flaws, but they aren't as glaring as they are in the sequel trilogy, because in the sequel trilogy they tried to show you that not everyone's perfect and that everyone has flaws, and yeah, that's a great lesson that we need to learn, but not a lesson that is from somebody who is supposed to be the hero, right, of the entire story. Luke is just the person that brings good out of people. And you find that in episode 6 when he brings Vader back from the dark side and redeems him, right? So Luke is a catalyst of everyone being a good guy. And in this alternate timeline, Grogu would be under the possession of the Emperor, and all that future timeline would be is episode 7, 8, and 9. And we get to see that and see how that plays out. And even in the World Between Worlds, you can hear Kylo and Rey, and you get to hear things from that timeline. But the timeline is now changing because Grogu is now not under the control of the Emperor anymore. He's not being drained of his blood and used for scientific experiments left, right, and center. We have a Grogu that is learning underneath Luke, and who will meet Ben Solo, and who knows, maybe Luke will take Ben Solo right away now instead of taking him when he was, 10 years old? So Luke said to Leia that he doesn't want to train Ben until he's 10 because he doesn't feel like he's ready. He'd like some time to go learn and to figure out the way of the Force and how to actually be a Jedi, and that he doesn't feel like he's ready anyways to take under a learner. But Ben Solo was his first learner in the sequel trilogy. And in this, we see Grogu is now his first apprentice. He's already taken him under his wing. So the timeline has changed. There's something different in the timeline already. Luke has a student that's not Ben Solo. This Mandalorian trilogy, or series, takes place 6 years after Return of the Jedi. Excuse me, but that is Ben Solo. He is still probably, 5 years old right now? So maybe Luke takes him when he's older still. Maybe he doesn't think that he should train Ben at all anymore. Maybe he just tries to make his own Jedi Temple and doesn't bring his attachments into it because Grogu and him would have spoken and seen how much attachment can really turn a Jedi and make the worst out of anybody. Because if you fear something, that leads to hate, and hate leads to anger, and and all that stuff leads to suffering. You know, it's just the way of the dark side. Once you go down it, you never come back. So Grogu knows firsthand what happened at Order 66, and Luke would be able to learn that from Grogu, and he wouldn't want that to happen again, so we wouldn't see the burning of Luke's Jedi Temple and Kylo killing all of his students and taking some of them as Knights of Ren and then running away and working for Snoke, and that whole entire trilogy would now be different. And so The World Between Worlds is a way that they have sort of saved the trilogy, in my opinion, because the sequel trilogy was just poorly put together entertainment. It is a good movie. Each of them, like 7, 8, 9, are good movies. If you just sit down and watch them, they're good action movies. Yeah, it's Star Wars, but the story does not line up. It is not perfectly written. It's not like poetry. It doesn't rhyme. Like George Lucas says it should. It always rhymes. Everything that has happened in 4, 5, 6 is almost mirrored in its own way in 1, 2, 3. So my theory is that Ahsoka is alive, and without Ahsoka sending Mando and Grogu to Tython, this whole entire trilogy would have happened. So now Ahsoka has changed everything, and Ahsoka is bringing that balance in, and she's about to go looking for Ezra Bridger and Thrawn. So we're going to see a new big bad guy, which is going to be Thrawn, because the Emperor is dead. The Emperor did not come back. He has not made his way into another body that can like hold his Force energy. That has never happened. The whole Emperor Palpatine on the big arm, it's not happening anymore. It's just a future that is a alternate future. And it is still a cool timeline. Sure, maybe they can somehow make that come back in the near future as well. And let's say they fix it up, and maybe we even see a new 7, 8, 9 come out in theaters in 10 years or so, right after the 10-year plan of the Ahsoka TV show, the Mandalorian TV show, the Rangers of the New Republic, and Boba Fett's show is all done. Maybe after all those shows, we'll see a retcon trilogy come out, and it'll be the Thrawn is the big bad guy, and that's our main screen enemy. Right, and just like the Yu Zhang Fong and all that fun stuff in the Thrawn books that I'm about to read. I only know a little bit of it because my father has spoken to me about how epic Thrawn is and how unstoppable the Yu Zhang Fong are, which are basically like beings who are, I guess, have a Force bubble who can't get affected by Force abilities. So Luke basically has to get tested to his utmost limit, and Chewbacca dies, and all this fun stuff happens in those books. So I'm gonna be reading those here soon, and I'll be posting more videos about that as well. But my main theory is that the sequels didn't really happen, and they happened in a timeline where Ahsoka died, but Ahsoka is alive now. So we're about to see Ahsoka go try to find Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we're going to see Thrawn's fleet, and we're going to see tons of other things that are super interesting Star Wars lore, because Thrawn is amazing. He's such an interesting character. He is a bad guy, but also he has his own way of being a bad guy. He's a tactical bad guy, and he's not just a normal Imperial officer. He is somebody who has mindset behind him, who uses your own interests against you and figures you out like a book. He reads your battle strategies based off of your art and your history of your people, and he knows who you are just by looking at you, because he can feel your ethics behind you type deal. He already knows. He's just a super genius bad guy, almost like a Lex Luthor, right? Somebody who you cannot beat, but when you beat him, it requires everyone. It requires a mass effort and a group of people to come together and defeat this big force, which Ezra did. In the last episode of Rebels, you see Ezra, and he has a plan. He already came up with this plan. His purpose was to use the space whales, I forget what they're called, but they're the Purgle. They come out of hyperspace, and they travel through the hyperspace routes, and they cause ships to crash, and they just like travel wherever they want. And Ezra has a weird connection with animals through the Force. That's his like ability, is that he can just connect to animals really well. And so he does. He calls on them, and they come and they latch on to Grand Admiral Thrawn's main Star Destroyer while Thrawn and Ezra are on the bridge, and then they teleport. And that's all we see of Rebels. And then at the end of Rebels, Ahsoka goes off looking for Ezra. And so that's where we are right now, is Ahsoka's out looking for Ezra. And she's now going to find Thrawn because the magistrate would have told her where Thrawn is. So the Ahsoka show is definitely going to reach more into the retconning of the sequels than The Mandalorian, I'd assume, because Ahsoka is Dave Filoni and George Lucas's baby. They have created her together, almost. Dave Filoni came to George with the idea of Ahsoka, who's back there chilling, and George loved it. He was like, "Yep, 100%. I never planned on Anakin having a Padawan before, but this one's perfect." So that's my theory. Let's talk about it in the comments below, and make sure to like that video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed, and may the Force be with you. Come on. Tell me that didn't stop it. Yeah, there